Will you all please join me for the Pledge of Allegiance? Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I'd like to thank everybody for joining us tonight. Can I get a roll call?
Mr. Cook?
Here.
Mr. D'Andriano?
Here.
Mr. Rogan?
Here.
Ms. Smith?
Here.
Mr. Williams?
Here. Can I get a motion on the reports?
I'd like to make a motion to approve the code compliance for January 2023, the code enforcement for January 2023, dog control officer for January 2023, ECI for January 2023, the Patterson Fire Department fourth quarter 2022, Putnam Lake Fire Department fourth quarter 2022, and Patterson Recreation December 2022 and January 2023. So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Can I get a motion on the supervisor's report for December 2022?
I'll make a motion we approve the supervisor's report for December of 2022. So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
I'll make a motion we approve the public hearing minutes for the local law number 1 for zoning, the public hearing minutes for Chapter 142 taxation, and the town board meeting minutes for January 11th and January 25th of 2023. So moved.
Second.
Eileen, did you make the changes? We're all good?
Yeah.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Somebody like to audit some bills?
I'll make a motion to approve abstract number 2 dated January 27th, 2023 in the amount of $115,054.60. So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Budget transfers next. Budget transfer request number 50 is requested to allocate additional funds for the sanitation fuel usage account for the increase in fuel costs. We'll be moving $1,000 from the state retirement expense account to the sanitation fuel usage expense account in the amount of $1,000. Make a motion that the town board approve budget transfer request number 50. So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Budget transfer request number 51 is requested to allocate additional funds for the various accounts for the increases in fuel and utility costs and the Putnam Lake Dam study. Be moving $18,000 from the state retirement expense account, and we'll be moving $8,200 to the ambulance contractual, $1,650 to town hall utilities, $150 to recreation center utilities, and $8,000 to engineer contractual expense account. I'll make a motion that the town board approve budget transfer request number 51. So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Mr. D'Andriano, you're up.
All right, first I have some EMS requests. First request is for repair to one of the ambulances for the rub rail. The cost was $1,435.11 from Specialty Fleet Services, so they can make a motion to approve the $1,435.11 for that repair. So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Next was a request to hire, then it was withdrawn. Next, we have a memo here from our EMS administrator, Bobby Kearns. Mr. Kearns and I interviewed a woman to replace, that's going to be the next thing. I'll just read the memo. I'm endorsing Jennifer Hunt to be hired as an assistant administrator with the town of Patterson EMS. This appointment will be temporary until meeting all civil service background, clearance, and department hiring requirements. Appointment will be on a part-time basis with an hourly rate of $26.65 per hour. This appointment will be to fill the assistant administrator position currently held by Jason Wheelock, who has tendered his resignation, which will be effective April 30th. This appointment will be immediate to allow Ms. Hunt to get acquainted with the job during the transition of Jason's leaving. Okay, so I'd like to make a motion. So I did sit on the interview with Mr. Kearns, with Ms. Jennifer Hunt, excellent candidate. She's a paramedic. She's worked down in Westchester as well as in Putnam. She currently works in Putnam. And she's worked not only in EMS in the field, she also has a lot of experience with administration and EMS, with a lot of different EMS companies and agencies working with. So she knows a lot of our different programs and our different protocols and our billing stuff. And so I think she'd be an excellent fit for this position. So I'd like to make a motion to hire Jennifer Hunt on a part-time basis, an hourly rate of $26.65.
You're introducing the resolution?
Yes, we also have a resolution to hire, so I'd like to introduce this resolution and enter into the record as read. So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
So with that said, we have a resignation from Mr. Jason Wheelock, requesting to be effective on April 30th, so he can train Ms. Hunt. I'd like to read this. I'm writing this letter to properly inform you that I will be resigning my position as Assistant Administrator of EMS. My last day will be April 30th, 2023. Thank you so much for the opportunity to work and grow in this position for the last 22 months. I've enjoyed and learned much in my experience here at Patterson EMS. I want to especially thank Mr. Kearns for taking a chance on me and aiding me in my development as an administrator. I will do everything possible to wrap up my duties here and train my replacement in the next few months to ensure a smooth transition. Please let me know if there's anything further I can do during this transitional time. So I'd like to make a motion to accept Mr. Jason Wheelock's resignation. So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
I also have another resignation from the Patterson EMS. As we know, a lot of our EMTs, they come in and then they move on to bigger and better things. We have a letter here from Mr. Michael Larm. I regret to inform you that I have come to the difficult decision to resign from the Town of Patterson Emergency Medical Service. With new life changes approaches, I have found that I will no longer be able to dedicate my time as I have for the past 6 years. I'm extremely grateful to the bosses and coworkers I have had the opportunity to work with, as well as the opportunity this job has given me to grow my career. I hope for the possibility to return in the future. Thank you very much. So I'd like to make a motion to accept Michael Larm's resignation from the Patterson EMS. So
Second.
All in favor?
Aye. Last thing I have is a memorandum of agreement for the county radio system to be a part of. So I'd like to make a motion to approve the town supervisor to sign the memorandum of agreement. So move.
Second.
Discussion. Jamie, I think I sent this down to you. I had a conversation with Tom Landon about some of the changes, which, I highlighted here. There's one additional change, though, in section 10, which he said put the language in and we'll see where it goes. Which essentially, so what this is, we're gonna keep these radios potentially for 20 years, right? And if at any time, anything happens to them directly or indirectly caused by our negligence or otherwise, should damage or destruction render the use of the item radio impossible, impractical, dangerous, or reliable for emergency services purposes, the town will reimburse the county up to the full replacement value of the items of radio equipment. My concern is this: we're going to have a radio for 18 years. There's a lot of wear on it, and there should be some sort of prorated
It's like
value.
tires.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So what I had suggested is adding in there at the end of that line, and Jamie, weigh in whether you think this is appropriate. So where it says value of the item of radio equipment at the time of loss.
I agree.
Okay. So with that change, still want the motion?
Sure.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
That's very good.
That's all I have.
Next, we have our seasonal lawn maintenance and landscaping requests for bids, both within the town and the Putnam Lake Park District. I'll take a minute and read them.
My socks off.
74 pages.
But I'll skip that, and I'll make a motion that the town board authorize the town clerk to advertise for these bids with a due date of March 15th. So I'll make it one motion for both the Town of Patterson areas and the Putnam Lake Park District areas. So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
I must say I'm a little disappointed because I have to write those every year. I was really hoping that somebody was going to read them aloud at a meeting.
I'll be happy to.
Will you take it home?
I read them, Rich.
Thank you.
I just want to
They
say
call
I'm
it
happy to see
filibuster,
that lawn maintenance and not snow removal.
Yeah, exactly. Next, we have a memo from our Highway Department, Russ Goff. It's time for our annual bid process. April 1st to March 31st is the bid year. So requesting that we advertise for bids for washed sand for ice control, crushed stone, bituminous concrete, annual tree work, diesel fuel, heating oil, and gasoline. So I'm going to make a motion, after I read this, that town board authorize the town clerk to advertise for bid for these items, and that the bids also be opened on Wednesday, March 15th at 2 p.m. So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Next, we have a resolution relative to the establishment of a performance bond for 10 Burton Farm Road, and both the town engineer and the planning department recommends setting a performance bond in the amount of $7,500. So I will make a motion that the town board approve that bond amount, and that we enter the resolution and the attached recommendations into the record as read. So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
That's it.
Well said, Charles. Okay, first up, we have a request from our Planning and Zoning Department to attend a training for hydrology, construction, stormwater, and stormwater pollution prevention training. And the request is for Ms. Shannon Jenkins, and it is for $525. It's February 1st, February 22nd, and March 15th of this year. This is critical to staying in compliance with the multitude of MS4 requirements that the state mandates us to follow. I will make a motion that we approve this request for Ms. Jenkins. So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Next, we have, this relates to the planning and development of the improvements for the I-84 and Route 311 interchange, and this money, by the way, is coming from DASNY, from the DASNY grants, so it's not a direct impact on our budget. Essentially, we have not a request, but a bid from Collier Engineering and Design, and this is for professional services for the construction inspections and administration services as required for the New York State DOT highway work permit for, as I said, the 311 and I-84 interchange, for traffic signalization improvements and other traffic signal and pavement improvements of the New York State Route 311 corridor located in the town of Patterson. So I will make a motion that we accept the proposal, and we have a resolution for that. It is in the amount of $162,000. I'll ask that the resolution be entered into the record as though read. So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Next up is an interesting item. Millennium Strategies is a company that works and specializes in grant funding, and essentially they are a company that will seek out for the municipality's benefit. They work for mainly government entities, and many of our partnering and neighboring communities already work with Millennium. In fact, I had spoken with our town supervisor in Putnam Valley, Miss Jackie Anabi, and she had said they had very good success with having this organization. I believe Town of Kent uses them as well. And, essentially, if you have a project that you're looking to fund, you speak to people and you either individually seek out revenue sources, like our supervisor has done in many cases. This company is a dedicated staff. That's their job. It's like a machine that all they do is look for where the funding opportunities are. And then if you pay them for the service, they'll actually even write the grant and they'll help you to get the funding. You'll see in the packet, we had asked, Rich and I had done a Zoom call a couple of months ago with them to kind of start the conversation moving forward, and asked them to provide a proposal for the board's review and consideration. And if you look, some of the grants that were received by our neighbors were quite significant. The town of Putnam Valley received $2,800,000 for completion of a water main and treatment plant construction. I believe Town of Kent in here got just under $1 million for replacement of some culverts at Lake Louise Drive. So, it's important to, this is why we talk about projects in the town of Patterson, what we want to, looking at a vision for the future and what things we need to tackle. Right now, the projects before us, we have funding in place for. We've already spoken about funding for the EMS building, for the Front Street Water. But looking forward to other projects that we've discussed, it may be an appropriate time for the board to consider whether or not this is a service that we want to move forward with. So I think just for tonight, it's simply to let the board know about what, that this is a proposal that we sought for the town's benefit, and to consider a review, and then we'll touch back, in the future on and see if it's something we want to move forward with. But the folks from Millennium seem very, they've got great recommendations. We had a really good conversation with them. This is what they do. You can go on their website and see some of the accolades, but their company profile and staffing profile is listed. And at the end of the day, though, remember, money isn't always for free. There's always a matching part of it. So, it's nice to say we get, say, $500,000 in funding, but we have to be prepared to have that other half. So it's, it can be a wish list, but it needs to be something we're really dedicated to moving forward with. And so,
Great.
go ahead, I'm sorry.
And I don't want anybody to think that Patterson is necessarily being so outdone by other adjoining municipalities, because we are currently working on probably about $4 million in projects funded by other sources other than property taxes.
Correct. Yeah, absolutely.
So what is the pay structure like?
Oh,
How
sorry.
do we pay them? Do we give them a retainer? Do they get a piece of the grant?
So the structure is based on services provided, not a portion of the grant. And the scope of services, you'll see that there's a like research and portal service, which is the beginning phase, and there's a free fee structure. So it starts out at the minimum retainer fee would be like $650 a month, and then depending on the service, it can go upwards of say a little over $3,000. $3,300 a month would be more of like the gold standard package of providing and that's why they list out service one, service. It's a tiered, somewhat like an a la carte kind of service, and so.
We would tell them what we're looking for, and then they would come back and say, well, the fee for that type of activity would be such and such?
No, that's not quite it. They would, if you say we want them to search for grant opportunity, they can do the search and say, here's a grant, and they've met the minimum requirements under a smaller fee structure, right? So
Yeah.
I'll search, because grants come from all kinds of resources. You could have a full-time grant writer or grant person on your staff.
Sure.
This kind of replaces that.
Yes.
Or you say, I want more service from you. Find the grant, we agree with it, they actually write up and submit and help you with actually obtaining the grant. They're not gonna do the work of, the project, of course, but,
Yeah.
that's design and all other sorts of things. But, this is that service that, Rich has done a tremendous job over the years as a grant writer and seeking out, but again, there's lots of work to be done. It isn't that you have somebody that all they do is sit at a computer all day looking for grants. That's what they do.
Right, look at the size of the staff.
Yeah.
So,
And look at the client list, they
have a lot of resources,
They have a lot of resources. yeah.
which is good.
So if I could add to this, if we were talking about just looking for state grants, we get plenty of those on
Yeah,
state grants.
sure.
The benefit to Millennium is the fact that they go to other sources outside of where we're normally being notified.
So when we discussed it, again, when I had the conversation with the other town, said, let's at least gather some information, bring it back to the board, have everyone be able to review it, and then see if it's something we want to move forward with, and if so, we can have a conversation with the company so that everybody fully appreciates what the services are that are being offered and where we'd like to take it. So, for us, at this point, we haven't spent anything, this is just a conversation, but if we have projects, like we mentioned the big projects in Putnam Lake,
Yes.
dredging, or whatever that is going to look like. Once we you have to kind of know what you want to do. You can't just say, well, we're going to look for grants and then design a project. It's that would kind of be like reverse engineering, but it's a potential funding source that is significant for our residents. So, we all hear that there's grant funding out there, but being able to actually get that money is sometimes difficult. As Rich has said over the years with some of the DASNY grants alone, it's brutal, the process that you have to go through. Especially when you have changes at state level, and all of a sudden what you thought you had, now they make you reapply for, as you have said.
So the grant for the EMS building, the acquisition of that land, I had to submit 3, and none of them expired, but they asked me to submit 3 separate applications, 3 separate appraisals, simply because of the time that had passed and the time it took them to review it.
Yeah.
We have the money in the bank. We got it a week ago.
Oh, nice.
Great.
It's fantastic. So, okay.
Okay?
Anything from anyone else on this, or we good at this
Yeah.
point?
I think it's good. I've done little grants just to buy bicycle helmets and stuff, and it takes hours, and you gotta know what they're looking for and write it to
the
that.
specs, yeah.
The specs, and it's a lot of work, so when you have people who do that all the time and know how to write it and know what they're looking for, and have a relationship with the grantees and stuff, the grantors, it makes a difference, so I think it's great.
Cool.
Okay, I have a request for a resignation of position for the clerk scheduling director for the Patterson Recreation Center, Susan Maganone. As of March 1st, 2023, she will be resigning her position. I'd like to accept the resignation as submitted. So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right. I would like to approve the hiring of Susan McEnone to the position of Clerk Scheduling Director for the Town of Patterson Recreation Center to be effective March 6, 2023. So moved.
Second.
What's the difference? I'm sorry.
So she is resigning as of March 1st, and we are rehiring her as of March 6th.
Right.
So she has a break in service,
Okay.
so she can collect her pension.
Okay.
We have a second?
Yeah.
All in
Second.
favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, so next on my agenda, the town board had adopted local law number 3 of 2022, which in effect changed chapter 150 to prohibit parking on Fields Corners Road. It was right at the end of the year. Eileen did her best to get it out, but she didn't get it out till
Tuesday.
3 days later.
Yeah.
It was like crazy. So, general municipal, home rule law requires that you file a local law within 20 days, which she more than did, but because it happened the filing occurred in 2023, the Department of State won't take it. So what this is a resolution basically acknowledging a change in the numbering of the law from introductory law number 3 of 2022, which was adopted as local law number 3 of 2022, to renumber that local law number 3 of 2023. And I have a resolution I'd like to introduce and ask that it be read into the record as though read.
Second with a question.
Sure.
I'm assuming with this, since there's not any substantive changes, it's simply acknowledging that it's a filing, a procedural issue. There's no need for any re-noticing public hearing. That's
No,
all.
I don't believe you do need to, and the Department of State's guidance on local laws indicates that a letter should be sufficient for changing numbering, so I don't believe, like it says in the resolution, there wasn't any substantive changes, it was only dealing with the numbering, which, you know, it seems silly because of the fact that it was adopted in 2022, but the Department of State is essentially responsible for numbering, and they get to determine how that numbering works, so.
Don't mess with the state. Thank you.
Department of State, if you're listening, I didn't call you silly.
All right, so next on my agenda,
I'd ask the question.
all in favor?
Aye.
Okay, next on my agenda is a little bit more of a complicated discussion. Last year, we had hired, based on a recommendation of the Putnam Lake Park Advisory Board, an individual who, and I had attended the meetings, you know, presented a proposal to the town for studying the lake in furtherance of understanding whether the lake sediments were in fact an issue, and then doing some additional work in furtherance of data that we would need to file for a DEC permit to potentially start dredging the lake. That includes some sediment sampling for contaminants, some other work. This study began, you're all aware of that. Halfway through the study, the gentleman left and went to another firm, and the principals of the company kind of dropped the ball. And I've been going back and forth with the principal about what we're going to do as far as finishing up the study and getting the data we needed. As of an email in December, he said that he recognized there were deficiencies in the sampling, and that he was willing to redo a lot of the sampling to get the necessary data in the 2023 season and finish it all up. Recently, I received an email from this gentleman who now says, well, we've got pretty much enough data, and you know, I'd like to get your permission to finish up the report so we can, you know, conclude the study for this year. And we've gone back and forth a little bit, and, you know, for members of the public, I'll just read the latest email, leaving out the name. I'm only learning now that I should never have let this individual freely talk to folks, as his understanding of lake management was poor. His knowledge of technical limnology was very weak. Every lake needs an annual monitoring program, and this was never represented as an annual monitoring program. Yours needs a program that's a little bit more robust because of your state of decline is serious. Either way, I would like to finish the 2022 contract by conducting the data analysis and writing the report. As I said, we have all the pieces except the sediment probing, which you actually don't need if you're removing the sediment as P removal project, where you would be targeting the top 10 centimeters only. Now, I have an email from this gentleman who goes in detail on the deficiencies in the sampling that he got. And it was my understanding back from the December that he was going to take, you know, this summary of the different tasks that he was supposed to do and finish the sampling so that we actually had real data. It appears now, not only is he not interested in doing that, but also that he is now maintaining that, you know, this needs to be done annually. And, you know, this was a fairly expensive proposition for us all. I did meet with the Putnam Lake Park Advisory Board to discuss this, and their recommendation back to us is we go back to the gentleman and tell him to finish the report as it was originally proposed, or essentially we're gonna find him in default. So I wanna bring it back to the board, open it up for discussion. If you want to take some time to think about this, you're more than welcome to. If not, I'd like to hear what you have to say.
If, have we paid him anything?
Yes.
Okay.
Nominal amounts, because again, they started in the spring, but once I realized that they weren't actually fulfilling the terms of their contract, I stopped paying.
So this document before us is actually a new proposal,
No,
No.
no, that's the original proposal.
the original one, I'm
Yes.
sorry, okay, yeah. And since we just really got this, does it include in here what was done?
So that proposal does not include what was done. I don't know if you've got the email which lays out. Let me take a quick look. Yeah, so here's where he goes through the tasks.
The tasks and what was
Right.
either done.
Okay.
or
Task
not
one, the
done.
task was poorly performed, and although good data was collected, it was not what was promised in the proposal.
So,
And,
if
again,
we accept, excuse me, Rich, if we accept this, then we have to pay him the remainder of the money, right?
I believe he would be looking for at least most of the remainder of the money. Certainly, he's not gonna give us, an email that says, hey, geez, we did it poorly, we didn't perform all the tasks, but, I'm gonna write the report and you can give us the money. There, and I just, playing devil's advocate in this, I have my opinion about what we should be doing. If we do nothing and tell him, it's the full report or nothing at all, and he says nothing at all, well, there is data here, there's a lot of data they did collect. I'd say, in my opinion, they collected about 60% of the data. Certainly he seems to be focused on sediment fractionation, and that's not what we were looking for. We were looking for having a chemical analysis to see if there were any contaminants in it, which is what the DEC is gonna want.
Right.
But, I may be able to negotiate with the gentleman to get a report at a substantially reduced price, and at least we will have some data.
But yet we would still have to go out.
We're still gonna have to do a whole lot more work to get to where we need to be if we are going to affirmatively say there's a problem with the sediment in the lake and start applying for DEC for permits to dredge.
Do you have any confidence that he can do what is it, the rest of the 40% or something, that we could have a full report?
So I don't know for sure. I mean, I've gone through his resume, and his resume, for me, is more focused on dealing with watersheds and plants and the microorganisms within the lake. Whereas his partner was more focused on sediment analysis and what's going on in the lake bottom. That's what she did her graduate thesis on. And so, at one point in January, I said, well, I was kind of waiting till your partner came back because she was out on leave. And the response I got back from him is, she's not coming back to this project. So that didn't sit too well with me either.
And even more,
So-
you should be thankful to have me, because he's the owner of he's the big shot,
Yeah.
the PhD, the guy that has the
So if they
company.
weren't, admittingly, they're saying that they didn't have they weren't really done right, but they think they got enough for data, is the DEC going to want these reports and they are going to accept them?
This isn't gonna help us with the DEC, really, at all. This would be good, we're probably gonna get a lot of good information out of them on the lake, and if he is correct, that really this should be a multi-year study. At least we've got some good baseline data for year one. But listen, we paid 27 or we got a proposal for $27,000 to do this study. I do not envision us spending $27,000 a year to do a study like this. I mean,
It's good money put towards the actual remediation.
sure, the original discussion with the Putnam Lake Park District and the individual who was representing this company was, we are looking to prove out the issue with the sediment and what's going on in the lake. And he says, well, that's good, but DEC is gonna want more. We need to do a more comprehensive study. And that's where he gave us the proposal. I don't know that we're gonna need all that, I know if we're gonna do some dredging, the DEC is gonna wanna know what, why we're dredging and how much and what the material is.
Of course.
So it says here the agreement was that they would visit once per month, April, June, and September, and twice per month in July and August. At what point did they stop?
August. So he missed the first one, we were coming up on the second one, that's when I reached out to him, and he said, oh, by the way, didn't anybody tell you I'm not there anymore? So,
Who did he tell that to? That he,
well, he told.
Other clients, not us.
Not us.
Yeah,
oh.
yeah, because I had a subsequent conversation with him, other lakes in
And
Putnam County that he's,
who was arranging to meet with him when he was coming to do the studies? He just would just go there?
So he had the ability to just go there and check his equipment, because he had put data loggers in the lake, but, again, I was in communication with him by email, wanting to know what the schedules were when they were showing up.
Well, it seems like they, I don't know how, they're saying that they didn't do them that well, but it looks like he did all of them except for missed one in August. That's really all he defaulted on, was one visit, right?
Well, no, I mean, if you go down through it,
Yeah, it seems like a little less than half the tasks he says that they performed poorly on, and that there was missing data.
yeah, the inlet sampling was performed poorly.
Now, he's talking about his own staff.
yeah,
Yeah,
former staff.
yeah,
Former.
yeah. And the reality was, the staff that was out there, I don't think they performed anything poorly. It was just a question of, they didn't put the staff out to do it when they were supposed to do it. Yeah, sediment, task 7, sediment analysis dredge. We collected sediment for P fractionation. That's not what they were supposed to do. They were supposed to collect it and have it tested for contaminants. So we knew if there were any contaminants. And at the same time, they were supposed to do, a sorting of the sediment, so we knew what was out there as far as, sand, gravel.
So do you have any interest in telling them to reset, do it all over, and we'll pay what we expected to pay, but just start all over and give us what we asked for?
So I would say that he has some data, certainly he's collected some data. I don't know that we need to do a complete restart, but, again, he put the data loggers in, he got 2 months worth of data, and then somebody actually either cut the rope so they sunk to the bottom or took them out of there, and so you lost like 2 months worth of data, because they never put them back in. I mean, he did conduct the aquatic plant survey, that's complete.
He has this information, we don't.
He has this information. Yeah.
So if we were to pay him off, he'd have to give us all the information that he has collected, and then we have to decide where we go from there.
God bless you.
God bless. Or what is he asking for to complete what hasn't been done yet?
What is he asking for? What he's suggesting in the latest email is that he's got enough data to write a comprehensive report on Putnam Lake and the condition of the lake.
Okay.
All right?
Yep.
Now, based on the holes in the data, I don't know how he's gonna give us what we need. But he's saying at this point, I think, I think what he wants to do is cut the study off, we're done, and then start a whole new study again in 2023, for which we don't have a proposal for yet. Because according to him, you can't do this in a one-shot deal.
Does he want the full payment from the last study? He thinks he has enough data to complete the report, but then he wants the full
I
payment.
believe he does, yes.
But he's advising us it was done poorly, so.
Yes, he is.
Yeah.
He's also saying that some of the
I don't see-
components were not necessary to generate the information, so it seems like it's gotta be a hybrid of, ascertaining what work was done, right? Also what work wasn't done and not paying them for that portion, and maybe figuring out, okay, you did 5 of the tasks, whether it was done, effectively or not. If you think you can generate a report that satisfies, explaining the health of the lake and what's going on, if there are components that the DEC specifically requires, then we damn sure make sure that that's articulated in any future bid, whether it's this company or another company. I mean, that's, based on past performance, we'd obviously all, I think, be a little gun shy, jumping right back in, without measures that, okay, do this and then we'll pay a portion.
I can say this, I wouldn't go back to them, not at all.
Well, I also don't like that they gave us a proposal for things that needed to be done, and now they're telling us those didn't really need to be done
Right.
when they
I don't
didn't do
check the
them.
work of my staff. They submit proposals, and he's the head honcho of the company, and
And who cut the ropes?
I feel like he threw his staff under the bus
It's-
too, which
Don't know.
he doesn't.
But it was
It's
his,
his
it was his,
responsibility.
res-
Yeah.
So,
his people did it, not us.
no, so what it is data loggers are a little tiny unit like that,
Mhm.
which measures different parameters of the water, and you string a whole bunch of them on a line down into the lake, so they measure the parameters at
Dissolved
different-
oxygen,
Yeah.
pH, turbidity,
And
conductivity,
then,
all kinds of things.
yeah, and then every so often you go back, you tear them out and you download the data,
Mhm.
right? And they're all suspended there by a buoy on the top of the water. Well, if somebody comes along and sees that buoy and cuts the rope underneath it,
Lose everything.
they all fall down to the bottom, you're never gonna find them. They get lost in the mucky bottom.
But isn't that his problem?
Oh, yeah, he's not
Oh, yeah.
looking for compensation because he lost his data loggers. It's his problem
He lost
also
the
in the
data.
fact that he never replaced them.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I think we should be asking for a refund.
Well, I guess, that's the question here. Do we call them up, say you're in default of your contract,
Mhm.
we're not gonna pay you anything, we're gonna go find somebody else, we're gonna start all over? Or do we say, I can go through the list and say, geez, task one he did, based on, what he's representing, he collected in data. Task two, he did 50% of, and then try to come up with a dollar amount in a reduction, saying, we'll give you this much for the data you've collected.
I'd like to start fresh and.
Well, except for
company,
that,
do
what
nice,
was
clean
done,
data,
we're not
fresh.
sure.
One at a time.
Sorry.
Good.
I'm just saying, it's, what was done, he himself is not happy with. So I don't think that we should be happy with it either.
Yeah, I'm not happy with the whole thing, he gave us a proposal, and then he's telling us that not all of it really needed to be done, and the stuff that was done wasn't done well, and his employees, he's got problems with, maybe, and then we're gonna have to go through all the data and see what we can use still and what not, and then see what we're gonna pay for, what is usable. I would say we're still gonna need probably more data, and it's still gonna set us back, no matter what. I'd say they're in default of the agreement, and we move on to a new company and start with fresh, clean data and start over.
I'm also concerned about the integrity of the report itself. How much of it is actually going to be actual data. We are being advised that, was done poorly, so.
No, you're right.
So don't expect, we're being
Yeah,
forewarned.
you put it in writing. We didn't ask for it.
Yeah.
They offered that. That was
Yeah.
kind of,
Yeah, he was kind of
Yeah.
relieving himself of any liability.
I absolutely agree with both
It's
of you that we
proper.
have to start fresh, and it sounds like even Rich says, you know, that would be the step forward with another company for starting off this spring, and clearly defining the scope of practice and what we need, and maybe even counter having a conversation with the DEC saying, here's what the goal is. Does this kind of meet and comport with what would be required to, you know, in furtherance of those permits?
Do we have enough time to start with a new,
Well-
get a new company to start soon enough to start for the spring?
I don't know. So typically you want to start these studies in April or May, you know, before the growing season really kicks in. I don't know that I can go out and find a company, and again, I'm on the fence about whether I'm gonna find a company or I'm gonna kick it back to the Putnam Lake Park Advisory Board, or how we're gonna work this together.
We certainly could somehow this season though get sampling of the,
Well, it's
the bottom.
Yeah, so
You know,
the
that's
sentiment
different.
the sentiment we
Yeah,
can
we
do.
could do that anytime.
And I will tell you all, you know, again, another little disappointing aspect of this is they didn't do the sediment sampling first thing in the spring, because they, you know, the individual kept saying, well, I've got to find out what DEC specifically is going to look for. I've got to find out what DEC is specifically looking for. And he never got that answer. And so, you know, when this all started to fall apart, I went up on the DEC website, as, you know, to start looking to figure out who I was going to call. And lo and behold, there is a manual on what you need to do to study for dredging. So I have that. I'm 2/3 of the way through it. So,
Okay.
I don't know, it seems to me that if you were to go through this and somehow estimate what would be a fair number to go back to this company and say, this is what we'll pay, we want a report as best you can for the information that you collected, and move on.
and there is some value to having that data, even though it's not complete.
Yeah.
What's the value of it?
The value may be what you've already paid them.
So,
It might be a
and-
break even.
So we have studies going back to 1986 that look at different parameters. You know, somebody like this individual can certainly take all those studies and go through them and say, well, this year the oxygen level was this year was this, and build a trend, right? And so this would add to understanding the trends of the lake.
But, so if we're gonna put a value on that, how much would we pay them?
And I'd have to do a hell of a lot
That's the
more,
million-dollar
because
question.
again, I didn't want to go any further into this, because the recommendation was, from the park board was, you know, complete the study as it was proposed, or,
Or all or nothing.
yeah, it's all or
Yeah.
nothing. And my opinion is, we should be starting over. You know, this isn't
You
gonna
should
do
be
us
starting
any
over
good.
with somebody else.
Yeah, with somebody who, listen, I don't know what to do about this gentleman, because it's like, you know, my company said we were gonna do this, but I don't agree that we should have been doing it.
Jamie, do you feel that the documentation and everything that you've heard thus far supports the idea that we could say there's a default of the scope of work and essentially cut our losses, ask for a refund on what we've paid, and move on?
I think it's clear, I mean, he's acknowledged, it seems,
Yeah.
that there was a default. And if there was going to be some proposal for an amount, you know, to receive what they've had, I think you can look at, they do outline the cost of each task in their proposal, so you could use that
Yeah.
as a starting point to say, you know, if you have some data from, you know, certain tasks saying, okay, if there's some data, we can cut that in half, you know, something like that. If there's ones that have been fully done, you know,
Yeah.
there is a mechanism for that, but I think he acknowledged that there was a default
Yeah.
in his emails, so.
I think that's what Pete, Mary, and Rich, you've all said the same thing. I would support that, you know. Look for the future, try to get as much back out of this as we can. Move on and, you know, can't fix the past, we certainly can fix the future.
Did we look at any other companies when we got this company? Did we
Yeah.
talk with anybody else?
So the Putnam Lake Park Advisory Board met with, I believe, three
Three,
different
yeah.
companies that they talking to about dredging and, you know, trying to understand what was going on in the lake.
We went over to, they had them, they were in the public meetings, because we went over to one in the basement there.
Yep, at the church.
At the church.
Lake church.
And each company is gonna have their own spin, they're, you know, I don't wanna say they're salespeople, but they have their own,
They
you
have a
know.
philosophy on what they're doing.
Yeah, their own angle on it.
But, so would we be able to approach one of those, or?
Well, I certainly would reach out to them. I don't know that anybody, myself included, was thrilled about any of the other two companies. We've also used two other companies, Solitude, which I'm a little leery about because they're more high-end. You know, it's more about the business than it is the service. There's another gentleman, Jim Gorman, that we have used in the past. I would reach out to him. And, you know, I talked to the Putnam Lake Park Advisory Board. They also suggested, and I agree that, you know, I could reach out to Nice Bola, you know, and see if they have anybody they would recommend.
Nice Bolus, the organization that represents all New York State, they put on a beautiful conference every year for, it's New York State Federation of Lake Associations, and they're just on this issue for trying to support Putnam Lake and all the lakes across Putnam County for this. There, you know, many lakes are having the same problem, and we're not alone in this. People are using different strategies to address it, but I think many agree that simply treating, you know, throwing chemicals at the issue, not any kind of a solution. So, you know, I think we're headed down the right path. Nobody thought it was gonna fix itself or get fixed in a year. This is a long range. If, you know, if 5 or 10 years from now we've got this solved, that's a beautiful thing for Putnam Lake and for Patterson. So I think we're on the right track, and I think we need to remain with that, you know, that direction that we're headed. We just need the data and the information to support the plan so that we can get permits and maybe even secure some funding. So I think we're on the right track.
All right, so I think I've got enough on the record and direction from the town board that, you know, I'm basically gonna go back to him and say, complete the study, or you're in default, give us our money back that we've already spent. I'll talk to Jamie about whether it's gonna be her or me.
I mean, I think it should come from our office at this point.
All right, well, but I'll help you draft something up,
Yep.
I would think.
Yep.
That's usually what you want me to do.
Yep.
Okay, moving on. Mary?
Yes, we have some recreation requests. The scoreboard over at the rec center gymnasium that they utilize for many different programs throughout the year recently has had some issues, not turning on at times. In fact, I was actually there one weekend when the guys were having a problem with it. So Matt's gone out and got some prices. The scoreboard is actually the Nevco brand, and there's unfortunately not able to get any other prices since this company is a sole source for the replacement of the Nevco scoreboards and the replacement parts. So we have to buy exclusively from them to utilize what we have in place right now. So I have a request for the remotes and receivers at the total cost of, that would be 2 of each, at the total cost of $1,650. So I'd like to make a motion to approve $1,650 for all the parts, remotes, controls, and boards, whatever is needed to get the scoreboard back up and working. So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
The next thing is I have a resolution here for the promotion of a few part-time recreation leaders. These guys are doing a great job. They were our recreation assistants, and we have now promoted them. Dean Hickenbotham, Colin Florence, and Matthew Chavarro Jr. will be promoted to the position of recreation leader at the hourly rate of $17.50 per hour on a part-time basis, and this is not to exceed 15 hours per week averaged over a 6-month period to stay within the civil service requirements. So I'd like to take this resolution, enter it into the record as though read for the promotion of our part-time recreation leaders. So moved.
Second?
All in favor?
I'd like to say thank you to those 3 young gentlemen. I'm there on the weekend with the basketball. They do a great program and very good interaction with the young kids, and my grandson is really having a good time at that. So,
Good.
thank you.
Okay, other business. Patterson Recreation is excited to be offering our first ever Mommy and Me program for caregivers and their children. This program is a great way for you and your child to get out, have fun, socialize in a safe and enjoyable environment. Children and their caregivers will participate in instructor-led activities, including singing, stories, parachute play, and more, open to children ages 1 to 2 years and 5 months. Fridays, March 3rd, March 10th, March 17th, March 24th, March 31st, 11:15 p.m. to 12 noon. $25 per children.
Nice flyer.
Excuse me?
They did a good job with the flyer.
Oh, yeah, really nice job. All right, Town of Patterson, lifeguards wanted. It is that time. We are getting ready for our 2023 summer season. Applicants must be at least 16 years old and have current American Red Cross waterfront lifeguard certifications and CPR. We are starting to work on trying to figure out if we can actually offer a training program as well. Or they may be willing to take and pass certification courses prior to beach opening. Guards must be able to work beaches in Putnam Lake and Veterans Memorial Park. Season runs Memorial Day through Labor Day. Beaches are open 7 days a week starting June 26th through September 4th. Applications available at patterson.myrec.com or the rec center or Patterson Town Hall. And that is all I have.
I have one thing. As everybody knows, there's the military tribute banners that are around town, and I want to compliment our Supervisor Rich Williams and our Highway Superintendent Russ Goff with their foresight in taking the banners down over the winter. If you've driven around the county, you've seen, and they have their own reasons, towns have left them up, and some are ripped, some are bent. So I think we did the right thing in taking them in. And if anybody is interested in getting a banner for a serviceman, woman, and their families, friends, they can contact militarytributebanners.org, and you'll take it from there. And let's see, there's also another website, Patterson Heroes Flags @gmail.com. It's a great way to recognize family members, friends, etc. So I have a big poster here I'll hold up for Paul. Our banners go up around Memorial Day, they come down around Veterans Day, and they're stored, kept in good condition, and working with the Highway Department, Rich and Russ, they see that the banners get up and are properly taken care of, and I think it's great. So
Are they put up Well, I mean, is this the first year that we took them down and we're putting them back up?
Yeah, it's
Yes.
the first year of
So
the program.
will they be put back up in the same place that they were first originally
Yeah.
placed?
Do they need to
Do
be?
we know? Well, so I think
So-
I asked at
so
one of the
answer-
meetings.
Yes, so the answer is yes. I've kept track of
I think it would be
every
nice.
banner and every poll number and where they
Okay.
were. And so there may be a little bit of shifting, because we have had some problems with vehicles hitting some of the banners.
Mm.
Even though they're fairly high, the bigger trucks coming around on a sharp corner. So I've got to see if we can't just get the, and what we tried to do is we tried to keep all the banners at the same height so they look
Mhm.
uniform.
Sure.
But I may have to shift a couple up.
So, I think I asked this at, I'm not sure, at another meeting, I don't know if it was, during a public meeting, but I asked if there was a place or a site that we could go to actually look at the photo and see where it's located, if they're, if they have, established any site like that yet.
No. And I haven't, this is something I wanted to do,
Mhm.
is put a page up on our website
Mhm.
that had the location and a little bio of everybody.
Yeah,
And I've asked on a number of different occasions to get that information. I haven't gotten it yet, so.
it would be, to, really spread it out there, is to do it county-wide, because I know, like, when I'm driving through Carmel, if I have the,
Can't read them.
well, if I'm the passenger, it's good, and it's interesting, because a lot of them, I looked at were some, that were parents or actually grandparents of children that my kids went to school with, and they look like the children. I'm like, my God, that looks like, so-and-so, and, and I noticed, McCarthy's is right outside of the establishment.
The restaurant, yeah.
That, yeah, so that must be, I'm assuming that's
Yes.
their grandfather or their,
Sure.
whatever. So I really like it. So, driving, it would be great to go to a website and see where it is, where it's located, and, enjoy the picture, maybe read a little history on the person.
Yeah, Gail Driscoll has been kind of coordinating it through the different towns. That's who worked with our VFW and American Legion and us.
Yeah,
So she might be someone to contact.
okay. Yeah,
Maybe
that,
work on something like that.
and even the application process, do they, give a small bio on the, on the person, and,
She's, because I talked to Gail actually about 2 weeks ago, because she's now trying to extend it, I think she said to Phillipstown, and Phillipstown was like Patterson, they wanted to get the permits, other towns just didn't bother, and so she didn't know exactly what permits, I guess they were looking for NICEAG, and I said, well, what about the DOT, and so I gave her all our permits, so she had templates. But she's got her hands full with Carmel and Kent, trying to keep them down. She's not gonna do something like we're trying
I'm
to do.
not saying she's gonna do it, I'm just saying, reach out. She's been coordinating with all the different towns, so maybe she can connect you or figure something out where you can get connected with.
or just maybe put the idea in their head, and maybe they
Yeah.
can run with it,
Yeah.
I'm just going to repeat this
Maybe
one.
we could keep
oh,
one in
sorry.
the, sorry,
Oh,
in
I'm
here.
sorry.
Yeah, at least
Repeat
maybe-
this once more about the contact. It's Patterson Heroes Flags @gmail.com. Thank you.
And if anybody is interested, you can always contact Town Hall and we will hook you up. So,
I'm going to ask Sue to put this up in the lobby.
anybody have any other business? Hearing none, we'll open it up to public recognition. Does anybody sitting here in the room tonight wish to address the board on any issue? If you could approach and give your name, and
Come on,
nobody is
Mike.
jumping up.
Waiting.
Could I have- where'd you go?
All right, so then we'll turn it over to anybody joining us by Zoom tonight. If any member of our public joining us by Zoom, if you would unmute and state your name and address for the record,
I have
and
it on
state
my
your
phone.
question or comment. Hearing none, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn?
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.